Kia ora e te whānau. Welcome to the first Safer Churches online training for credentialed ministers. My name is Steve and I lead the Safer Churches department for our Assemblies of God churches. It's my privilege to introduce to you today Sarah, who many of you will know in her role as the financial administrator at National Office, but who is also the passionate leader of our Children's Ministries department across our movement. Welcome, Sarah. And thank you for all that you do to serve and inspire us in building the faith of children. Because you're watching this today means that you will be aware that this training is now an essential component in your credential renewal process. But this training is so much more. Abuse is a significant problem within our local communities. This is why I'm convinced that this is morally right. And this is the right time to do what is right. We must acknowledge the devastating lifelong and intergenerational effect of abuse. As a movement, we're committed to elevating further the value of our children and young people above every other consideration by creating safe places, activities, and safe and informed workers. Our goal in each module is to strengthen each of you as effective shepherds to care for, as Jesus said, the little ones, and hopefully to impart some further wisdom. Thanks for your positive and supportive engagement. We want you to be inspired to change and to grow. Take courage with you as you walk through this series with us. Sarah will be your host for each module, introducing each presenter. You will find that our presenters are credible, full of wisdom, experience, and an unshakable conviction as to why they believe in the value and safety of children. They want you to take their why and make it your own. My hope is that by the end of each module, you will know their why, but also have the tools and the understanding to make it yours as well. At the end of each module, there are 6 multi-choice questions that review your learning and are the key to move on to the next module. Today, you'll need nothing more than pen and paper for personal notes and reflection.
Kia ora and welcome. This training series comprises of 7 approximately 30-minute teaching modules designed to equip, strengthen, upskill and empower our ministers in their responsibilities to build cultures that value children and young people and safeguard their activities and the church workers that minister beside them. Each module concludes with several multi-choice questions that evaluate your learning. You must pass these to move on to the next session. So we encourage you to take your time to process and reflect on each module and activate your learnings into a positive change.
We're blessed to be a movement of many cultures, exceptional pastors and leaders. While the value of children and their care and protection is accepted within every culture, we recognize that identifying, talking about, and responding to abuse in its many forms is often considered tapu or sacred. This response has been unhelpful to victims of abuse and has damaged the witness of the Christian church. Some aspects of what you will learn could be confronting and emotionally challenging. Please seek help if you find this difficult. The recent Royal Commission investigation and its recommendations have been a positive driver in our movement's leadership to equip our churches better. Together we're committed to positive change. Please stand with us by supporting this training.
It is my privilege to introduce our General Superintendent, Pastor Terry, to say a few words of welcome and introduction as we start Module 1. Welcome, Pastor Terry.
I would like to welcome you all, including our credentialed ministers, to our Safer Churches online training. I would like to share with you for a few minutes as to what is the inspiration and the motivation behind our quest to ensure all New Zealand Assemblies of God churches are indeed safe places, particularly for the young, the vulnerable, and the elderly. Jesus modeled sheer joy in all of his interactions with children. It was life-giving, and it provided a meaningful link and an understanding as to how the Father was toward his children. He gave them dignity, met them at their level, and did so in a way that was dignified and culturally respectful. He even went so far in Matthew 18 as to issue a stern warning toward any who would cause one of these little ones to stumble by saying, it will be better for them to have a millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. This strong statement reveals the tenderness of God's heart towards those who cannot stand up for themselves, nor defend themselves. As the head shepherd, he is ready to intervene and to bring retribution on those who are harmed. It also shows a side of his love that compels him to take strong action and to give such a stern warning. In fact, if you watch the many nature programs on TV, you will see many examples of where the parents of young will often boldly take on the lion or the bear, putting themselves in harm's way. Another strong reason behind us championing the training of safer churches, aside from the legal and constitutional expectations, is the reason of godly love. Our churches are called to be examples of springs in the wilderness, where the weary and damaged can come and find living water. In fact, we the believers and our assemblies become the visual representation of what and who Christ is. We may well be for some the first pure, uncompromised, and untainted expression of what God actually looks like and how he behaves. That may seem a lofty ideal, but through faith and trust in Christ, through holding fast to his word, and through the implementation of sound behavioral practices, as this course will teach, we can be that oasis of purity and life. So in conclusion, we as a movement have made children and vulnerable people a priority in how we care for them and ensuring that our churches are safe. This training platform is designed to better equip you from both a policy and a procedural aspect, and in helping you to see how these are applied in your own church from a practical viewpoint. I pray that you are both enabled and encouraged in this training to see and understand and to further implement the Safer Churches policy and procedures. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Pastor Terry. Pastor Paul from Mount Zion, Manurewa, will present this first module that will give an overview of Safer Churches. Pastor Paul is a local church pastor who has served the AOG movement in various capacities. On the National Executive, leading the writing of the updated Constitution, and the voice of Safer Churches at executive level, and within the design and delivery team of the initial Safer Churches training sessions. He has a powerful why. Welcome, Pastor Paul.
Greetings, Pastor. Welcome to Module 1 of our Safer Churches trainings, designed for credential holders within the Assembly of God family of churches. The purpose of this first module is to provide an overview of the biblical mandate for the protection of children and young people. Secondly, and outline our movement's journey relating to child protection. And thirdly, communicate our current priorities and future trajectory of child safety within the Assemblies of God movement. The safety of children and the vulnerable sits at the heart of the gospel. This always has been and always will be our why. The Bible provides a clear mandate for prioritizing child well-being within the church community, especially establishing children's safety and well-being as a moral and spiritual imperative. Scripture views children not as secondary citizens, but as a heritage from the Lord, created in God's image and possessing inherent worth. Jesus himself underscored their significance by welcoming them to and stating, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for to such belongs the kingdom of heaven." This welcome places a clear responsibility on the Christian church to provide a safe, supportive, and nurturing environment. Furthermore, the Bible issues one of its sternest warnings against those who would harm a child, stating, "If anyone causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea." This warning highlights the extreme seriousness with which God views the physical, emotional, and spiritual safety of our children. The church is called to reflect God's character as a protector of the vulnerable, specifically the fatherless and the oppressed. As a body of believers, the church's mission includes the nurturing of the children in the training and instruction of the Lord, which is impossible in an unsafe environment. Therefore, prioritizing child safety is an act of obedience to God's commands and a demonstration of Christian love and justice. Our movement has historically valued all peoples, regardless of age, and has acknowledged and catered for children and youth in our local churches at regional and national level. This provides a foundation of awareness of the importance and of the care and protection of young people. As Pastor David and Therese Goodwin initiated a specific national focus on the safety of children and young people in churches, they produced a book called Child Abuse in the Church in 1992. And holding local church seminars on this subject during the 1990s. However, continued revelation of abuse by people in leadership within the movement highlighted a lack of a national standard based on best practice and the need to transform the movement's culture. The first Assembly of God National Child Safety Policy and Procedure document was created 10 years ago by Pastor Steve Batten, partly out of the learnings of the Australian Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sex abuse, which sat from 2012 to 2017, and the recurring problem of the National Executive and Office having to respond to local churches who were finding they were poorly informed and resourced to protect children and respond appropriately to allegations of abuse. The New Zealand Royal Commission from 2018 to 2024 investigated abuse and neglect of children and young people and adults in state and faith-based care between 1950 and 1999. The Assembly of God New Zealand were required to respond and provide information of historical abuse cases and the movement's response to these cases over that time. The investigation highlighted the imperative for significant constitutional and cultural change to support our why. The National Executive recognised the need for and priority of a movement-wide Assembly of God Children and Young Persons Protection Policy and Procedure document that every member church would agree to and embrace locally. The significant moment in the life of the Assembly of God New Zealand was in October 2023, when agreement to make safer churches a minimum requirement, not just for our national body and departments, but for all churches within our movement. The 97% endorsement by the General Council spoke to the recognition and value of child safety. The executive created a working group of practitioners from within our movement to write and develop 4 modules that were delivered at regional and ethnic fellowships over a 3-year period. The PowerPoints for these presentations with a voiceover are available on our Assembly of God New Zealand website. If you have been in these presentations, you would be well remembered the orange staircase that plotted our progress and our direction. The initial requirement for local churches was that they were to create and adopt their own safety policy governmentally and create their working procedures on how to keep children and young people safe practically. In addition, each church was to select a child protection officer known as a CPO. Each church is now required to complete an annual return based on their agreement of these minimum requirements. This is completed electronically, and a link for this is provided by our national office. Pastor Hannah Whamawina was appointed by the National Executive as the first Assembly of God New Zealand Child Safety Lead. Hannah has redefined the movement culture by creating a Safer Churches component on our movement's website, strengthening national resources base for local church leaders and workers, and by equipping and supporting the position of the CPOs. Following the release of the Royal Commission's final report, several recommendations were released for adoption by faith-based entities. This required a review and revision of our movement's national policy and procedure documents to reflect these recommendations. These were overseen by Pastor Linda Bayliss and was completed and forwarded to the executive in late 2025 for acceptance. Pastor Linda is an incredible resource for the local church and has continued to strengthen local CPOs by running an online training and support forum. We encourage senior pastors to have their CPOs connected to these forums. Throughout 2025, work began on the creation of this online 7-module training for all of our credentialed ministers to coincide with our credential renewal cycle. The successful completion of these modules will ensure that all of our ministers have the same base information as required by our National Safer Churches policy. In November 2025, Pastor Steve Batten was appointed the National Safer Churches lead with an initial focus of bringing this online training to you today. We have an exciting and inspiring future. Our goal is to make our churches known in every community as a safe place. By the conclusion of 2025, we saw that Safer Churches had become an acknowledged department within the Assemblies of God New Zealand National Framework, and updated policy and procedure documents had been tabled with the executive for their consideration. The executive had appointed a Safer Churches executive representative, the same as for missions, fearless youth, and men and women's ministry. And a team for the continuing work of Safer Churches is being developed. Safer Churches Matters are an agenda item within all national executive meetings, and all Safer Churches incidences that are reported and responded to by National Office are examined to create an ongoing learning platform to strengthen our safety culture. Further advances in our online training for movement are being considered. This will include Safer Churches training at probationary minister symposiums for local church children's leaders and workers, governance consideration for elders and church board members, and the ongoing inducting, equipping, and supporting of our local church CPOs. Well, it was great to be with you today. Please complete the 6 multi-choice questions following that reflect your correct understanding of this module today. You will need to complete these successfully to be able to proceed with Module 2. God bless you.